Welcome to the Matt Report Podcast, a podcast all about building your business on the web. We've been doing this for about 5 years, collecting amazing stories from some entrepreneurs around the world on how they built their business, share their stories with us, and hopefully it helps you build your business too. Find us on iTunes, on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review if you so desire. Really helps us get found. We have an amazing collection of stories on the site, mattreport.com. The number one way to stay connected is mattreport.com/subscribe. And as always, we'll see you in the next episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Matt Report Podcast. We're just 11 minutes late, Sarah. There's nothing crazy, right? That's actually
11's my lucky number.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that's on time for me. I don't know. For most people, that's on time for me. We're actually not streaming to Facebook just yet, but for folks who don't know who you are you and what do you do?
Sure, Matt. Well, thanks for having me join you for this special wrap-up today. My name is Sara Dunn, and I was on Matt's Season 7 of the Matt Report. I am an agency owner based here in Southwest Michigan, so you can see my office behind me, which is out of my home. I do have a remote team of 4, and we work on mostly WordPress web design projects for clients and search engine optimization.
It's a pleasure to have you back. It's a pleasure to have you on Season 7, which I'm billing as my favorite season ever. A short season, nonetheless, but it was one of my favorite ones ever. So thanks for doing the show with us. What I want to talk about today is sort of just doing a general recap of where things are, maybe in your business. Maybe things have shifted around a little bit. And then we'll just talk about sort of WordPress business in general, or lack thereof, or maybe there's a lot of WordPress business out there, how things are shifting. But before I forget, anybody who's watching, it's mattreport.com/subscribe to join the mailing list. It's the number one way to stay connected, even though I send out about 2 emails a year. I haven't even sent out an email for 2018. That's the kind of marketer I am, Sarah. I don't know about you. How many emails have you sent out this year?
Marketing emails, I've actually been doing a pretty good job to my niche, so every other week.
Always throwing it in my face. Always throwing it in my face.
At least I wasn't like daily.
So I recently saw a video that you put out, or it was either a video or a blog post. I forget now. But it was something about you lost a potential lead to a generalist. Okay. We just got out of talking to you about getting out of being a generalist and all the positives behind that and the reasoning behind that. But give us the rundown about that video. What was that all about? And how are you shifting yourself now and still double downing on becoming a specialist and not a generalist? Sure.
And for anyone that didn't listen to that episode, I just want to share that this is a journey towards specializing my web agency that I've been vlogging about on YouTube about every week. So my most recent video from earlier this week was about something that happened just recently. I now am focusing my services on offering SEO for the wedding industry. And I talked to an amazing prospect a couple weeks ago who's a wedding planner based in the South, and she had seen her traffic and inquiries go down. So I was like, this is awesome. The more I talked to her, the more I knew that I could really help with my specialized services. And honestly, I thought we were a shoo-in. You know, she is exactly who I'm looking to work with, and we offered just what she needed, in my opinion. But I didn't hear back from her for a couple weeks. And unfortunately, when I emailed to follow up, she said, oh, you know what? Thanks for following up. Just so you know, I met with a local agency and ended up hiring them because they can help me with more than just SEO. And for whatever reason, that was super crushing for me. And almost immediately I sat down with my camera at this table behind me where I record all my videos and just talked about how I was feeling. And thankfully that video got amazing reception, tons of comments back from peers in the industry, just talking me down the fact that even as a specialist, you can't win every ideal project. And that is definitely true, and I feel a lot better. But it was fun to record that video when I was really feeling all the emotion and let down, and just kind of share that really honestly, because that kind of moment is exactly what I've been trying to share every week.
How has this been playing out for you, the sort of raw emotion of YouTube. We talked about this in our episode as well, but sometimes it's like, these videos don't get all the numbers, they don't get all the likes that we hope. We pour our heart and souls into these videos, and we don't see them sort of growing as fast as we might hope for, or at least that's my perspective. I don't know about your perspective. How has the whole YouTube thing been for you in this journey?
Well, I've been reflecting a lot on it because I'm actually coming up on my 1-year anniversary of when I posted my very first video. So I've been doing a lot of reflection. And to be honest, with this whole weekly vlogging project, I didn't go into it with any specific goals or like, I want to get as many subscribers as I can so I can start selling sponsorships and product placements. Nothing like that. It was truly just a desire to connect with other people who are doing client services and feeling a little bit stuck as a generalist. So, I'm up to maybe 114 subscribers. And when I think about that, to me, I'm like, I can't believe there's 114 people willing to raise their hand and go, yeah, I want to know when Sara posts something new every week. And so even though it's not like Casey Neistat numbers or something, like that's really meaningful to me. So I'm feeling really good about it at this point. And the fact that I continue to get Instagram comments, Twitter direct messages, comments on my blog, personal emails, almost every time I post a video, that means more to me than watching the view count go up or the subscriber count or anything like that.
I totally agree. Guess what, Sara? Everything's working on this side now. Facebook's up. I got the chat up. Everything's working. Anybody who's watching, seeing me fiddle with things, had some technical difficulties. But that's exactly what Sara and I are talking about here. Like this stuff, I don't know about you, Sara, but I work in these pockets of time. And just before our live show started, I was actually recording a YouTube video and, a regular YouTube video that I normally put up. And it was just about this topic. It was talking about identifying the right type of customer. And in this case, like you said, I know I'm not going to land everybody, but there are these customers where I talk to them and they're buyers, right? I sort of break up buyers into 3 different categories, and you can chime in and tell me if I'm wrong. There are buyers, people who will buy from you no matter what, right? Unless you royally screw up the sales process, they will buy from you. Then there are the non-buyers. Big surprise. Those are people who are focused on all they care about is price, or there's this big friction in the way of just doing business with you, and they just never will buy from you. And if they do, they're never happy, and you don't want them anyway. And then there's the third buyer, the in-betweener, right? The person who could go either way. They need a little bit of convincing. They need a little bit of massaging into getting into your products or services. And it's we create these videos and we put our heart and soul out there. We talk about these things. And sometimes it's just like 3 thumbs down, no thumbs up. And you're just like, why do I keep doing this? Like, why do I keep going live and fumbling with technology on Facebook and YouTube? Why do I keep doing this? For me, it's because, very much alongside of you, like I'm just passionate about having these conversations. And at least I know I'm working to get better at this stuff every day, even today being 15 minutes late. Just continue to work on it to improve. Do you see yourself continuing this for another year?
For sure. For as long as I feel like the journey is interesting and that I'm connecting with people and they seem to appreciate what I'm sharing. My whole premise for all of my videos is here's someone trying to figure things out who doesn't have all the answers, which to me, I'm hoping is really refreshing, because I think a lot of people go online and create content from the place of I'm the expert and you should listen to how smart I am. And that's not how I want my YouTube channel to come off at all. I want people to identify and say, wow, I didn't know anyone else felt the way that I did. And that's the feedback that I get a lot in private emails. Like, I'm exactly where you were a year ago. Thank you so much for sharing. Honestly, I'm really inspired by what you're sharing and what you're doing. And I mean, that's crazy. I never thought anybody would personally email and take time to write me paragraphs about what's going on in their business. So I think it's really cool. But I want to ask you,
Yep.
I don't want to let you become the interviewer for this whole episode, even though you might try to cut me off, because I think you're a little bit scared of my zingers. I'm really curious about your YouTube channel, what you've decided to do with it, how it's going, and who you're really trying to reach now with the more active YouTube channel that you have.
So that's a great question. I just, the last video that I have out on the channel is about me losing subscribers, right? So I've been testing these things out, and matter of fact, let's just share the screen for folks who are tuned in here. But I have I always test things with my content, and it's either I'm testing different ways to structure the podcast, or I'm either falling into the new year trap of blogging every single day and doing all of that fun stuff. But last week or 2 weeks ago, I decided, you know what, let's see what happens to the view count when I put up a video every single day. And well, I'll tell you what happened. I had more unsubscribers that week than I had for the entire maybe last month or 30 days. And if I get this streaming stuff right, everybody should be able to see that. Let's get this out of the way. So right here, I'm losing subscribers. This was 6 days ago, and you can see every single day I uploaded a video, and I lost more subscribers than I gained. And I know, it was sort of tongue in cheek, I know what I have to do to improve my stats, but I'm fine with experimenting to see what works. Even if it is something that is perceived as a failure. Do
you consider that a failed experiment then?
Actually,
based on...
I don't, because I learned something. I learned, number one, that I don't want to do a video every single day. Right? It's not something that I'm interested in doing. One, because it's not that it takes time. It's just I can't pull something super creative and super passionate every single day. Right? And I think that if you're a Casey Neistat, you're a anomaly, right? You're able to create stories every single day, but that's because of the context that he's in, right? Of who he is, where he lives. Number one, it's New York City. He's very much, sort of out and about. It's not even a phrase that even begins to put him in that light. But the point is I'm happy to experiment. I'm happy to see things change. But the view count and the watch time went up. So it went up.
Oh. It
went up 150% or something like that when I looked at the stats. And the goal that I have for YouTube right now is, this whole thing about monetization. You have to have 4,000 hours watched, at least 1,000 subscribers. My goal is to hit that mark, not just for the fact of the monetization piece, because I don't think I'll ever monetize this specific channel. I mean, maybe I will in the future. I don't know. It's just not even on my radar. I'm not even really thinking about it. But the point is, if that's the bar that YouTube sets, then that's the bar that I'm going to set for myself. So that solved sort of that little part of the algorithm or the equation is I can see, well, okay, every single day the watch time goes up. So I know that people are watching, or the subscribers that I do have, they're watching, and it's skyrocketed. But I have to do that every single day, and it's not something that I'm fully interested in doing right now.
Yeah, well, I agree. I only record one video a week, and it's not always the same day. It's when the right topic strikes me, or the mood strikes me, or I just have something that I really want to share. So it feels like it would be a lot of pressure to try to create something high value and interesting every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. So and then aside from that, I got some really good feedback from folks that were in the audience for that, or that left comments on that episode. There's video is a whole different animal, and I think talking head stuff works fairly well depending on the content that you're putting out. But at some point, there will be more Matt and Sarah's on YouTube talking about this stuff. So how do we get better? And that's when you really start thinking about sort of storytelling and just sort of what you're doing in a video. A lot of people watch the Casey Neistats and the Peter McKinnons of the world because it's just damn interesting video, right? They're flying through New York City on a skateboard, or they're up on some kind of mountain, snowboarding and doing all these crazy things off of helicopters. So it's just fun video to watch. And then they're able to wrap it with good story. for you and I, how do you and I as, business people, or dare I say internet marketers, how do we make this stuff super interesting? Like, I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
It's kind of a struggle too, because they set the bar so high as far as production quality and editing too. And that was one of the reasons that I almost didn't start my YouTube channel and almost scrapped my first video. I was like, I've got focus problems on this camera. The lighting's not very good. Shouldn't I be producing something better? Will anyone watch this given how bad the production quality is? And I decided just to try, and it turns out, since I personally think I'm talking about something that's a little bit different than what's already out there, I think that there's been a lot of, people that are willing to let that slide.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compete on like a daily vlog like Gary Vee or something where I'm talking about how interesting my whole day is and I've got an editor for it. So it's kind of its own part of the internet and the topics available. And it's only recently that I've actually invested in any equipment. So I set up my trash can tripod.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Just in case anyone heard mention of that. This has been my setup for, 35 videos. And I just bought the very first piece of equipment that I've actually bought related to my YouTube channel a year in, after testing to see if it worked. So for a year, I recorded videos with a camera that I already had on top of an upside down trash can in my office. And I think that that's important, just to kind of start with what you have and see if it catches on. If it doesn't,
let me make the full screen. Let me make go ahead, move over to, there it is. So everybody can see it. There it is. I was always picturing like one of those white, like typical office, trash cans the whole time. But no, that actually looks pretty good. That's pretty stylish. So. Where do you think all of this stuff is going? I mean, I've been talking about this for a little while now, that like creating, and so many people have, but I think much more personal side of selling, or at least marketing yourself now, is our last hope as people running a business. Like I just think with all the stuff going on with Facebook and ads, Facebook ads, and all of the information that people have out there and data, I think ads are just going to get more expensive. They're still affordable now compared to traditional media. But I really think that no matter how many ads you throw at somebody, there's going to be another competitor in your market at some point. They're going to throw ads. Then there's going to be a third competitor. They're going to throw ads. If people aren't creating this kind of customer journey through video, or even at the very least audio, I think in a year or 2 years, people are going to find themselves like, where did my business go? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like people have to do this kind of thing to survive?
I mean, I think you have to create a connection with a customer in some way that helps them to identify where you exist in the market, mm-hmm. and make some sort of connection and know kind of how to classify you. People will always kind of put you in a certain box in their mind where you exist and where your business is. And that's one of the reasons that I decided to specialize, because I know that my generalist agency didn't really have a compelling place in the market. Mm. It wasn't like, hey, I need SEO for a wedding business. Oh, you got to call Sara. That's exactly what she does. So that's what I'm trying to develop now, is a little bit more of that brand recognition. I'm choosing to do it through regular content and a monthly webinar to that audience and some of those things. I think everyone just kind of has to figure out how they want to be classified and how to get that message across in a way that is authentic to them. And I don't want to say it has to be video, or it has to be a podcast, or it has to be blogging. I think you've got to do what works for you and what feels natural for you.
Yeah, a lot of people could do just straight up Instagram stories, if that's just, a heck of a lot easier for them, or just Facebook Live stuff or Facebook story. And you really can't tell what's what anymore, because it's like they have the same product. It's the same sort of feeling on both. But I know from a lot of the people in my local market, especially like people who own like yoga studios and restaurants, I mean, Instagram is just such an easy tool to create this content. Way easier than figuring out how to do a podcast, right? And just doing it right and uploading it to iTunes and everywhere else, for sure. Where does what is the next thing for you, for your business? I think a lot of people start to think about, okay, I'm doing websites, or I'm doing SEO, or I'm doing content. is there another thing in the back of your mind that you know you want to launch, or something that you look at and say, that's a great opportunity, but I'm not ready for it yet? What is that next thing on your radar, if at all?
I don't have a particular, this is what I have to do in the next year. This is an idea that I have. Right now, what I'm trying to do is relentless focus on this specialized niche. So as much as I want to get distracted, I'm always coming up with ideas. I think that's just the entrepreneur's mind and the excitement of the new challenge. And I have to shelve all of them because what I need right now is the relentless focus on my niche and growing there. And so for me, like I've thought about, it'd be so fun to have a podcast myself that's about specializing your agency, where I interview others who have done something like that. And I'm like, no, that's not for now, because the best thing that I can do right now is to make my niche successful and put my efforts there. And those are the lessons that I want to be sharing, not kind of splintering my attention and not giving the niche the focus that it needs in order to really grow and my authority and expertise there to grow. So it's been funny. Someone actually asked me like, oh, so what's your big strategy for this YouTube channel? Are you hoping to do less client work, and are you hoping to grow that and like sell courses? I said, no, I don't have a strategy for it. It's just sharing openly and seeing where it goes. So I'm just going to keep going with my weekly video, and I refuse to let it take up more of my time than that.
No, I good on you there's nothing wrong with creating courses and doing membership stuff. There's a lot of people that I respect in this industry that do that. But it's just not, everybody thinks like it's just like the natural next step of things. And it's sort of just played off like it's so easy to do it too at the same time. It takes a whole different mindset and a whole different tact to get that stuff off the ground.
Yeah. So for you, what is your next step? And I've been really curious about the podcast. You kind of did this shorter focus season. Can I ask you what's next for the podcast and kind of what you see as the podcast future?
One of the things that I've always wanted to do for the podcast is have a co-host. And I've had co-hosts in the past. Devin Walker for the Matt Report specifically, and Joe Casabona. We did one for my other YouTube channel. I really want to get intimate with somebody. And I know that sounds weird, but I want to get intimate with I want to be able to do like weekly recaps and like what has happened with their business, and sort of just build that journey throughout a season with somebody again. And no offense to Devin and Joe, but it's not something that we ever really got into. Something I've always wanted to do. And I think that's going to be the next season, if I can find a willing participant to do that kind of thing with.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I hope that, I think what's missing a lot in podcasts that are mostly interview shows like yours is your audience gets to know your voice, but they don't get to know your story.
Right.
Like I know nothing, as much as I've listened to you talk, I know nothing about your work at Pagely. I'd love to hear how that's going, and to go a little bit deeper into your professional journey and how you're feeling about it. And I know there isn't really a place for that on a total interview show. So I love the idea of you having a co-host and kind of just maybe having some episodes that are just back and forth on a particular topic, and also including some updates and what's going on with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I'm definitely pegging for the season. I've always tried to do different things, for better or for worse, with the Matt Report, partly because I get bored of the same thing. So I always try to put myself in my audience shoes, and it's like, man, if I'm getting bored, probably somebody listening to this is getting bored. So, let's mix things up. And, I've split up seasons before with other hosts and other topics. I've let people just take over the show during gap seasons, as I've called them. But yeah, that's going to be the next thing. And same thing with the YouTube stuff. Like, I am just going to continue to put out the content that I just want to make, and then I'll find my way that way and just see what happens.
Well, if I can actually point back to season 7, one of my favorite episodes was with Kim Doyle, and she said something along the lines of, I figured out my direction by doing.
Yep.
And that sounds like kind of what you're talking about doing too. You know, she talked about being the WordPress chick for a while, and then how that led her to where she really wants to be and what she really wants to do. So that was really inspiring.
You know, the truth is, every time I end a season for the Matt Report, I always say it's the last season. Like in my head, like I say to myself that, you know, I think this is it, right? I think that WordPress is taking the way that people consume WordPress, quote unquote, news and information is just, it's so different now. And by different, I mean, I feel like very few people actually even care about the inside baseball of WordPress anymore, which I don't think is a good thing. You know, and I'm talking like things that, you know, shift the software, shift the market, shift businesses, not like, you know, gossipy stuff, but the things that should matter to us as business owners, which I highlighted in the blue collar digital worker piece that I wrote about. You know, and I always say this is going to be the last season, because I feel like people aren't, I don't know, what do you think? I mean, I don't think that people are really writing about WordPress businesses as they once used to, like really dissecting them and analyzing where the market's going. I think people have just given up on on that and just said, well, Gutenberg, Jetpack, and WordPress have taken over themselves. Automatic has taken over themselves. There's no real big shifts in the market anymore. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So it's funny to hear you say that, because I get that little bit of a spin in every interview you're doing. There always seems to be the cynical question about what's the future of WordPress and will it stick around? And I didn't listen to every episode of season 7, but what was interesting is none of your guests said, I think WordPress is gone tomorrow and is totally irrelevant. So I think I would challenge you on that a little bit. I think that we all really like still being connected in the WordPress community. And what you do by interviewing people with WordPress related businesses is just keep people connected. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not having people on to talk about, you know, how are we going to deal with rolling out Gutenberg, or what needs to happen next in WordPress. I've noticed this season was very much stories of people and where they are and how their business currently or used to work with WordPress, which I still find really interesting. I mean, yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree that people don't perceive it. I guess how I look at this stuff is I'm looking at it from, how are we talking about WordPress from the, I guess, integrator's view or the business view, the person who's installing WordPress for people, because I feel ultimately we are, because I'm biased, right? Again, if you go back and you look at the blue collar digital worker piece that I did, like I really feel like the growth of WordPress has come from folks like you and I who have implemented it, and people who are really passionate about using the software for good reason. And what I see from my angle is there's less talk about WordPress as a whole, versus like just talking about features. Like, yeah, everybody's talking about Gutenberg and page builders and all this stuff and awesome web hosting stuff. But I feel like what we're doing is we're not, I don't know, gut checking everything that's happening in the WordPress community. We're not adding interesting points of view. So I feel like when that starts to lessen, then I'm not saying WordPress is going to go away or going to decline, but it's only going to be dictated by, is that an interesting word to use? It's going to be dictated by just one path. That it's just much more of like a future, like a domino effect, right? I can't fully, wrap an intelligent phrase around it, but I just feel like if no one's really, really dissecting this stuff and fact checking things and really just giving their own opinions about how the market should approach customers and users, then our collective voices have lost, and there's only just one place to go to. I don't know.
Do you have any desire to make the podcast a platform for more specific WordPress related discussion then?
Hell no. Quite the opposite, in fact.
Why not?
I just, and this is me maybe just feeling slightly defeated through, because of all this. It's just not an area that I want to fly a flag in anymore. I am happy to see people use, WordPress, and I will still be a strong proponent for WordPress. But from what I found over doing this for 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been, like, people are really only still interested in the development side of WordPress. And that's what still gets the most attention in this space, because it is a pure developer's tool. Now, what happens when, Gutenberg rolls out and, a year from now we're at WordPress 6.0 or whatever version we're at in a year from now, does it look slightly different? I think so. I think the landscape will be a little bit different. We might get more implementers in the space. Who knows, right? We might get more consultants coming into WordPress, and that'll be a good thing. But I've never found, because I just talk about the business side, I've never found much traction. Funnily enough, to say that, I've never found a huge response in my content as if you were to put out a piece like 17 ways to optimize a Gutenberg block, right? And people rush to it like a snow day, right? Everybody's got to go run out and grab the bread and milk. Everybody's just, I got to go get the 17 ways to improve my Gutenberg blocks, right? And here I am, like, sharing stories of people who've built multi-million-dollar businesses, and you can pull some amazing lessons from them, which I just don't feel like there's a massive market anymore to talk about WordPress plus business. I think it has to be much more me stepping away from that and just talking about the business side of things.
Yeah, so how about next question then? If the podcast is to continue, who would you see as the target audience for it?
That's one of the things we're trying to do with the YouTube channel, is to see if doing more video will connect me closer, back to the intimate stuff, is connect me closer to somebody who wants to maybe double down on learning about sales. It's something that I've been doing forever. And I don't really hear too many people focusing on sales focused stuff.
No.
But that's what I'm trying to uncover. I'm trying to uncover, well, let's see who I can draw intimately to YouTube. And then if I shift a little bit in the podcast, then I'll pull from that audience.
Interesting. So building the audience on YouTube first that leads the direction of the podcast and some of your other content.
Yeah. So, and while you're my therapist on this,
I'm here for you.
One thing I've never done, and this is something that I've seen a lot of people who create content that get frustrated creating content, is I've never really tried to convert with the podcast and with Matt Report. And that is to say, like, I have never said, like, there are podcasts that you can turn into that are specifically made to, sell them something, right? So it's like, I sell an ebook on how to sell websites, and then at the top of the show, every show starts with, don't forget to download my free guide to, pre-screening your customers for the right customer, and then I'll enter you into my $500 course, and then a mastermind program and all this stuff. Like, I have never done that kind of funnel approach for the Matt Report, because it's not what I want. Like, I want to help people first. So that has meant that my content has always just been like this, just fire hose of stuff that I've put out that I'm just generally interested in. And I can never look at it and say, this is successful, right? I don't have a pure metric that I can look to and say, besides my email list, I don't have a pure metric to say, 3,000 people this month have learned something amazing from the lessons. 3,000 people have joined this Facebook group, right? And that, to say that is because not that it takes a toll on you, but you just don't know, like, how successful this stuff is. And
if it's worth your time.
And if it's worth your time. So I'll give you one other example. So I say that because like now that I have kids, like I'm looking at this stuff like I enjoy podcasting. I enjoy creating this media. But what is it doing for me?
Yeah.
Right? What is it doing for me? I love talking about this and I love helping people, but I just started a podcast for my local business community. And if I had started this podcast for the local business community where I'm at 5 years ago when I started the Matt Report, nobody would listen to it. Yeah, people wouldn't even know what a podcast. People are just learning what the freaking website is, right? In my local business area. Never mind a podcast. But here we are, 2018. People know what a podcast is now. People are starting to understand it. I just launched this thing 2 weeks ago. I haven't even put out the full episodes yet. I have 4 of them that I'm editing and releasing next week. I did a live show and I did a preview trailer. And I was just at the coffee shop getting this coffee in my hand. And somebody said, "Hey, you're Matt Medeiros." And I said, "Yeah." They say, "Oh, you do that podcast that just launched, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Yeah, it looks so awesome. Like, I can't wait to hear all the episodes." And I'm just like, it took 2 weeks to get like public recognition doing this stuff. Like, well, I mean, what more? It looks like I have better opportunity over here. There's already a market response, right? There's already a market response. I haven't even launched an episode yet, versus 5 years of throwing spaghetti at the wall with the Matt Report stuff. So that's not a violin playing in the background that you hear, but it's just one of these things like, man, I think people who tune into WordPress content are very much still developers and people who are really focused on that stuff than they are about the business side of things. Well,
to break it down a little bit, it's when you talk about doing a podcast that's focused around a specific local area, you're probably reaching people that are underserved in podcasts. You know, they don't have another podcast to listen to where they're going to hear about their local area. So it's very niche. And, you know, they know exactly what they're going to get. You know, I come to this podcast to connect with other local businesses or whatever your goal is. So it's probably pretty clear and pretty underserved.
Right.
Now, what is your goal of doing a local podcast? Because you don't sell in the local market anymore with your agency, right?
The agency still exists. My father still runs it. There's still a team there working away at it. The goal here is it's back to giving back. I do a lot of mentoring in my local area. So there's a new-ish startup Accelerator program. So it's a nonprofit and people with ideas can come and they have 2 cohorts that run summertime and wintertime, and anybody can join. It's a rapid Accelerator program. People who join this program, they got 90 days. They learn everything about running a business, from legal to marketing to web to, you know, building their products. And anybody from all walks of life can go and do this, you know, if they pass the sort of presentation thing. And I do a lot of mentoring at a local college as well, where I went to school. And this is just another way of sort of giving back. And I don't know, I've used this word before, but it's just like you start thinking about like, what is your legacy in all of this stuff? And the older I get, I feel like the only power, like superpower I have, is being able to talk. which is just like, that's all I got, people. Like, this is all I got. So, you know, let's just exploit it a little bit. And now that I have,
you should.
And now that I have kids, it's just like, I don't know, maybe something like this will help them in the future. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's my throwing my dart against the wall in that. So that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah. Can I give you a couple sentences of encouragement around that?
Yes.
I just think, if the purpose of it is giving back, I think that you're going to do a great job connecting with your local community. And rather than getting too wrapped up with any metrics in this project, just see if you can take stock and kind of keep a record of those one-to-one interactions where people say thank you.
Yeah.
Rather than subscribers, downloads, income, I think you'll find a lot more fulfillment out of it. Kind of the way I have with my YouTube channel, with very little expectations and just like kind of blown away that anybody even cares.
Right.
Like, hold on to that feeling of the guy in the coffee shop as long as possible.
Yeah.
And appreciate that as much as you can. I think that's really important. And I think that that'll make it a lot more fulfilling than obsessing about how many people you're reaching.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. Season 7. So your favorite episode was with Kim Doyle.
It was. I actually haven't read a lot of Kim's content or experienced it, and she blew me away. I was like, I think we might be soul sisters. Just her whole, I loved her demeanor about pursuing something she was really excited about and only bringing things into her life that she really enjoyed doing. Super cool. Also, I wanted to bring up her it was like this tiny little piece of advice that I thought was so good, where she talked about how if you want to start something new and enter the market, to find that first customer and offer to do work for free. Mm-hmm. I would highly recommend, if someone hasn't listened to that episode, go listen to Kim's episode and listen to that advice about free work. I did a video about free work a few months ago, and it was, I would say, one of my more controversial. It was actually the one I got my first negative comment on. I think free work is a very polarizing topic, and I really liked the way Kim talked about it, in how you can use a free project to build up your own content, your own expertise, and potentially referrals.
Yeah. I agree with that 100% as well. I too did a YouTube video about working for free, will work for free. And, it's one of these things, like when I was in college, and there was a local ISP that I ended up working for like 7 years. I got pretty high up in the company there. Like, I started as an intern, and they were like, "Well, we can't pay you." I don't care. I don't want to get paid. Like, I just want to be here and learn this stuff. I don't see anybody doing that anymore. Like, when I was looking for interns at college for my agency, and even when I talk to people, when I go do mentorship at the local university and local community college, like, these kids are just like, yeah, how much am I going to make? Like, how much am I going to get paid? It's like, man, like, don't you know how valuable this knowledge is to have? And people in our space, online, in the digital space, in the design space specifically, it's like, you will never catch me working for free. I am too valuable, and value-based selling, and my time is worth 5x whatever. And it's like,
yeah.
But if you don't have a portfolio and you're just getting into it, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do?
Exactly. Those who are established and have all the leads they can handle and a huge portfolio, I understand if they don't want to take someone's offer for, will you do work for me for free? But when you're getting established, like, I have a portfolio, but not a very big one in my new niche. So to me, to be able to do free work for someone that was highly targeted, a great connector within the industry, has paid off for me tenfold. And I am happy to continue to do free work for her, because she appreciates it and has helped me to grow, not only in my portfolio, but in my connections.
Yeah.
So I think free work needs to be done strategically. And I really liked the way Kim Doyle described it on your podcast, because it was very strategic, the advice she gave.
Before I forget, my favorite episode was Christy Chirinos from Caldera Forums. Super intelligent.
My gosh. To be as smart as Christy, I went to her WordCamp US talk, and she starts putting up like equations on the screen, and I'm like, whoa, Christy, like I haven't looked at equations with 4 variables in them since college, so like, help.
Yeah. I mean, I was scooping up my brain off of my desk when we were done talking. So for anybody watching this, definitely check out that episode. That was amazing. And of course, my good friend Corey, selling his business, selling iThemes to Liquid Web. I mean, that's you run a business for 10 years, and as deeply connected as Corey is to, I mean, I know publicly to the people that he knows in the community, he's super connected to people. Like, he really cares about people. I can only imagine what that's like, with his employees. And to make that decision, does not come easy. A lot of people think of this stuff as that's the end game, but it's not easy giving up that control and then seeing what an organization might do to the people that have worked with you and trusted you for 10 years, but your customers as well.
Yes.
And speaking of legacy, that's the same thing. I mean, I just really enjoyed that conversation with Corey. But I do think it's the natural next step for many companies his size in this market at this time frame in the WordPress space at this time.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear him talk about that and some of the emotional decisions, the decisions around his team, who for him are like family. I have a ton of respect for Corey Miller. I think he is just a truly great person, and that shines through anytime you talk to him or read something he's written. I have not a lot of interest in ever working for someone else, but if I did, it would be Corey or someone like Corey that, just really has a vision for the future and a real appreciation for people that help to get there.
I mean, I tell you, that's one of the biggest lessons I learned, going to a company like Pagely is, when you've been running your business for 10 years and doing things on your own, you ponder, like, am I going to be able to have a boss again? Like, oh my God, like, what is that going to be like? And I don't know.
Tell us.
Yeah. And I don't know if every company has a dictator like Josh Strebel. No, I'm just kidding, Josh. It's just an amazing experience working with people that just, when you go from working with yourself every single day, and like, you're the person that makes the decisions, you're the person that QAs everything. When you're like, what's my next step? Oh, let me talk to myself again and figure this out. Or when you get into a bind and all you have is yourself, or just, a few people around you, you get that tunnel vision and then you talk to yourself the whole time. But when people have a great process like Pagely does, and they have a great team like Pagely does, it's a huge, like, eye opener. And I mean, not everybody is able to work for a great company. I get it. But if you can find, going back to like working for free, if you can find a great company to work for and you want to just be an intern just to soak up that knowledge, see if you can do it. But that's the biggest lesson, is being able to trust, again, going to work for a company. I guess that's the big lesson in it, is being able to trust a boss, a teammate again. That has been a huge lesson, but one that has been great for me so far.
Yeah.
It's almost been a year. In a couple months, it'll be a year at Pagely.
I would be really fascinated to hear your reflection on this shift in your own career and what you've learned. So I don't know. I would encourage you to put out a video or be interviewed on a podcast or something, because I know that that's a decision that others in the WordPress space have made recently too. So, you're talking about how some people might need to sell, while other people may continue to get hired as opposed to working for themselves. So I think that would be really useful information for you to share this story of the last year. A lot of people feel like it's by taking a job or doing something like that, it pegs you as, well, you failed, right? You didn't right. have, like, the business didn't succeed. In my case, the business still is going. The agency is still there. And to me, that's the true definition of an entrepreneur, right? When you can build something and not be there anymore, and it's still running and it still has customers and it's still doing fine. I don't know, that's entrepreneurship to me. You build something, it's still going. It's not a failure, because what you're getting into in this next single chapter of your life is a whole new experience. And it's something that I know is going to elevate me to the next level, because I'm just learning so much from a whole bunch of great people and new experiences. So it is definitely something I plan on doing, some kind of recap there. That'd be great. I think that's really true. I mean, you're getting paid really to learn and to have new experiences and to take away a lot of things that you can decide to take into whatever your next chapter is. We got a couple questions in the chat, so let's hit those before we close it out, because my God, it's been 48 minutes since we went live, and about an hour and a half since you and I started getting the technical stuff out of the way. Strictly on me. Jason Resnick says, Matt, how can you quiet the voice in your head when you become an employee? That's an interesting one. It's something that that, at least in my context, Josh, the owner of Pagely, is a very open individual. So being able to talk to him about different things, it really has to do with the DNA of the team, at least in my experience, where everyone's open to improvement.
at least at Pagely. So lots of systems and processes in place, especially on the sales side. And sometimes, like, hey, when I first started, we had a certain way of screening people in a pre-sales way. I had always done it a different way from selling for 20 years. And Sean, my direct boss, we sort of ironed that out and worked it out, and we came up with a new formula. I guess it depends on what business you're in. Sara, you said that you could probably never work for somebody ever again because you wouldn't want to be probably told what to do and how to perform it. But for me anyway, hey, if you have a great team that you're working with and they're open to conversation and change, then it's so easy versus some big corporation anyway. Yeah.
I don't think I would know how to be an employee. I never have been. So yeah, I think I would suck at that.
I was never a good employee either. Except at Pagely. Let's see what else. Patricia, how about setting up a course for local podcasts around Accelerator programs? Pittsburgh is growing like crazy in that market. That would be a super interesting one. I mean, again, that's probably why I struck when the iron was hot with the local market, because there's always been a lot of sort of like micro startups in my area, but this new Accelerator program has brought it to a whole new light and a whole new level. Plus, there's just a lot of crappy Facebook pages from my area, like just like gossip sites. I don't know if every city and town has these kinds of like, small time Facebook pages where it's like, they're talking about local either politics or crime, and like, look at all the crime in this area, or look at all the politics in this area, and everybody just feeds off of like all this negative stuff. I just felt like it was time to just do some good content. Like, there are great people around this area. Let's talk about them.
That's really cool. I live in a small town too, and I feel like something positive, sharing good stories would be really helpful.
Let's see, one last one. Splitting the time of business ideas. Splitting time of business ideas makes the day longer and things 10 times harder. Yes, for sure. Cool. That's it on the YouTube side. Let's just check Facebook. No questions on Facebook. I don't even know if I launched Facebook correctly. It says live, but I don't know if it broadcasted to everybody on the list. Sweet. Well, Sara, I appreciate you doing the wrap up with me here at samarreport.com/subscribe to join the mailing list. Sara, where can folks find you on the web to say thanks?
Sure. For your WordPress audience, I'd love to connect with you on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Sara11D, and I do my weekly blog and videos on sara-dunn.com.
Excuse me while I take a sip of coffee. You don't see that, Sara. Everybody else, don't forget to subscribe to the channels, youtube.com/themarreport. Subscribe to this wonderful channel as we go through this journey of figuring out what kind of content we want to put out. It's mostly centered around sales, marketing, and business stories. The podcast will be back sometime, I want to say end of May, maybe first week of June. Sounds like a good, reasonable time for me to get things together and find that co-host. If you want to be a co-host, marreport.com/contact. Send me your information. Maybe we can hash it out. I really want to find somebody who's like in the midst of building something and they want to talk about that and really share some of the challenges that they're going through. Hit me up. All right, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.